and The Burn with Mitch Show. Here's your host, Mitch Bernstein.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to The Burn with Mitch on 12 Ounce Sports. I am your host, Mitch Bernstein. Thank you for being here tonight. We have a Halloween treat show for you. It's no tricks here tonight. Halloween week, it's all treats. We have a fabulous show. We're going to start a little early because we have 4 guests coming on, and I'm looking forward to talking to each one of them. Hope you're all well as we get into fall in the heart of football season and Game 6 of the World Series tonight. Will the Dodgers clinch their first series win since '88? Or will the Rays take them to a 7th game? We will see tonight. So I wanted to quickly review the show. Awesome guests, and then we'll get into a few things. We'll read some ads, and then our first caller is our first guest is coach of our local high school football team, Coach Mike Rickey, Garnet Valley High School in Garnet Valley, Pennsylvania. Mike has led this team for many, many years. Perennial playoff team, going pretty far in districts. Every once in a while, it's a great time to go out and watch on Friday nights. So Mike will be with us tonight at 6:10. We're going to talk to Mike a little bit about the game, this first game of the season, which they played Friday, and they beat their opponent Lower Merion by a score of 42-6. And we'll talk to Mike about who stood out on his team and any surprises and what is he doing to prep for his next game, their next game, the Jags, this Friday at home versus Conestoga. So that's Mike coming up at 6:10, followed by our regular guest, Brendan Deeg. And Brendan, you can find at Eagles Talk. And I keep forgetting, when you go, if you want to follow Brendan on Twitter, it's at Eagles Talk, and then there's an underscore after the K in Talk. So Brendan and I will rehash the last week's Eagles game, that narrow victory over those so talented New York Giants, and talk about the upcoming game, Sunday Night Football, with the lovely Dallas Cowboys. So talk about a team in shambles. That is a team in shambles. So we'll talk to Brendan, go over some of the plays, what his thoughts were, what he was thinking towards the in the end of that game, in the fourth quarter. I was watching him tweet, and I was tweeting with him, and the tweets weren't very positive, but yet they did pull it out to win. 7 o'clock. Mets fans, baseball fans from the 60s and 70s, join us for a conversation with the former New York Met World Series champion of that 1969 amazing Mets team, platoon outfielder with Ron Swoboda in right field. Once in a while, first baseman Art Shamsky will be with us. I'm very excited to talk to Art. Lots of things to talk to Art about in a very short amount of time. I kept making notes to as things came into my head about what I wanted to talk to him about. Hopefully we'll get through it all. We'll talk about the 69 Mets, talk about his book After the Miracle. And the reason why Art, been tweeting out to Art for a year or so. I met Art 2 years ago at Cooperstown. He signed his book for me, and finally was able to get him on because he was not happy with the way baseball was being played in this World Series. So I reached out to him, made some comments, and then he responded. And so we're going to talk a little bit about his thoughts about baseball these days, and the World Series specifically, and a couple other things, including Tom Seaver, Buddy Harrelson, and wanted to get his thoughts. I just wrote this down in my notes. Any of you who listened or watched that World Series and saw catches by Tommy Agee and Ron Swoboda, I want to know what Art's thoughts were in the dugout when those guys made those catches. So that's at 7 o'clock. And then we finish up the night with Craig Calcaterra. Craig has been involved with baseball for many years. Didn't start out his career that way. Started out as a lawyer, and I will recommend his Cup of Coffee newsletter to you to read every morning. My wife and I are laughing every morning about some of the things that he said in there. It's not just about baseball. It's kind of an interesting take on different specific topics in life these days, and some of that involves his kids. And those of us who have kids and who have teenagers, it's an interesting life we go through. And he shared an incident with him and his kids in this cup of coffee Monday morning, and my wife and I just started laughing. So we'll get into that. He's also a cat person, so I know we'll have a good discussion. We're going to talk about baseball and the World Series. I want to get some background on Craig. What's his favorite team? Where did he come from? And we're going to just talk to him. What does he like What does he like about the game now? And what does he does not like about the game right now? So that's the show for tonight. Very exciting. Very happy to be here with you to talk with these guests. Before we do, those of you who we've talked about this many times, if you're looking to spend some money and get online and wager a bit, you need to go to mybookie.ag. Mybookie.ag. When you make your first deposit on mybookie.ag and use the promo code 12OZ Sports, that's 12OZ Sports, all caps, no spaces, when signing up, you get your deposit matched up to $1,000. Okay? Basketball is done, unfortunately, for those basketball fans. Hockey's done, but we still got football. Lots of weeks of football left. Golf, we got the Masters coming up in November. So there are still things you can do on MyBookie that aren't sports. But if you want to do that, please go to mybookie.ag and get in on the action. A lot of things you can do on there. And again, one of them is to place some wagering on some football. And if you get on there again and go to mybookie.ag, that's Alpha Gamma, and make your first deposit there, you'll get your first deposit matched up to $1,000 when you use the promo code 12OZ Sports. And remember, always gamble responsibly. I think we have Mike coming on right now. Let's see what we can get. Let's see if this is Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Mitch, how you doing?
Coach, how are you?
I'm great, thanks.
That's awesome. Thank you for coming on. Apologize for the miscue last week.
No, that's all right. No problem.
All right, a little bit of a fumble, to use football terms.
Yeah.
But thank you for being here. How is everything going?
Everything's going great. Considering everything and considering the fact that we didn't think we were going to be able to play and all the ups and downs that the kids battled, everything is going great right now.
That's terrific. That's good to hear. I was able to watch, we're going to get right into the game on Friday, so I was able to watch a little bit on YouTube, and to put it mildly, there wasn't much on the Lower Merion defense to hold you guys from scoring. I watched several series of plays, and if it wasn't one play, it was two plays, and touchdowns were scored. So, and we've talked about this a little bit in terms of, when you have a game like this, you're still pushing the kids to perform, which you have to. What's your message? I mean, do they get lax at all on the sideline, saying, "Oh, these guys are..." Listen, they're high school kids. Do they know in the huddle when they're playing, when they're in the offensive huddle, they know these guys on defense aren't that good? What do you tell them when they're in that huddle?
Well, what we tell them is we really don't worry about what the other guys do. And because we focus on controlling what we can control, and that's us, and we pride ourselves on execution, and we really want to execute our offense. So it doesn't matter if we're playing, and it doesn't matter if it's Lower Merion or Coatesville or whoever it is that's out there. Our focus is always the same: control what we can control. And what we did in that game against Lower Merion, it's the first game of the season. It's a game the guys have been waiting for that they thought were never going to happen. Being ready to play was not a problem.
Yeah.
And the execution on offense, I think we scored 35 points and we only ran 12 plays. So I was very happy with the execution. And the thing I love about our guys, we have 100 guys on our roster, and after we get up 35, those guys are saying, "Coach, put so-and-so in, give him a shot, let him go." And that's kind of the way we do things here. And the guys that go in, they need to be ready to execute. So we're constantly focusing on making sure our guys are doing what they're supposed to do, executing, playing together, and they all did a really good job. Every guy that got in the game the other night did a really good job with that.
Yeah, I was wondering because I was at work and I couldn't continue to watch. I was assuming that when you were up 35 at the half, and they were going into the
40, we were up 42 at the half.
Was it 42 at the half? Okay.
Yeah.
That the mercy rule went in and the clock was going to run. That you were going to put in the second stringers, etc. So, and yes, God forbid somebody goes down on the first on that first team. You're right. These kids have to be ready. So, and from what I understand, and you've told me this before, in practice, everybody's focused. Everybody knows that anybody can go in at any time, and it's great. From what you're telling me, you were pleased with how that second team played.
Yeah, well, we played second, third. We probably had 80 kids or so that got into that game on Friday night, and maybe more than that. We had at least 80 kids that got into the game. One of the guys who's one of our assistants this year, John Flynn, who played quarterback here for us in the early 90s and then went on to Cheney's Hall of Fame. He hasn't been back for a long time. He remarked to me during the course of the game, he said, "Coach, no matter who we put out there, they're so prepared to play. They know what they're doing, and that's just a tribute. We have a phenomenal group of assistant coaches here who put our guys in position. But the kids have to buy into that too. They have to recognize my job is to be the best I can be and to be ready when I get out there." And they really stepped up and did that.
And that sounds great. So tell me, because again, first game of the season, I couldn't be there. Probably couldn't be there if I wanted to, if I wasn't working. Who am I looking at now? Tell me who the quarterback is. Tell me who your running backs are. What your offense is like this year.
So our quarterback, the starting quarterback, is a senior, one of our co-captains, Kevin McGarry. But we feel like we have three quarterbacks who could start for us. We have Kevin, who's a senior. We have Shane Mulholland and Max Busenkill, who are both juniors. And they all bring different things. Our plan is hopefully to be able to play those guys and to play to their strengths during the course of the year. But we've been really thrilled with our quarterback play throughout the preseason and in the game on Friday night. At running back, again, we have a whole host of running backs. Shane Reynolds, we have Brian Bradley, another one of our co-captains. Sam Moore, another one of our co-captains. We have Ryan Saunders. We have Dave Torrens. We have Cullen Mink. We have Andrew Van Horn, who's a sophomore. We have a plethora of running backs who I think are going to be really good football players for us. And we have the ability. Our offense is a run-dominant offense, and to run those guys through and to be able to do that gives us just a sense of rotation. We can get guys rest. We don't have to put anybody in there who's dog-tired. And those guys have been really impressive, our running backs this year.
So your strengths, I'm hearing that your strengths on offense is probably your depth. Well,
with depth at running back, we have some really good receivers. Unfortunately, Luke Lassick separated his shoulder on Friday night. But Dozie Okolo is really good. He scored a touchdown on a pass reception. We have our two sniffer backs, Sean Gallagher and Sean Williams, who do a really good job for us. Our offensive line, we have 5 new starters this year.
Okay, good. Wow.
That's always, to see how those guys are going to round into play. But our offensive line coach, Rick Stroop, has those guys. They did really well. Nolan Brennan was our player of the week. We pick a player of the week each week. He's our left guard, and he just played exceptionally well for us.
And I read, Mike, I think in a preview that your defense is very quick. Is that right? You have a very quick defense this year?
Yep. So we really put an emphasis on developing speed. When we started to come back on June 29th and we could start to work with the kids, we opted to focus on speed work and strength and conditioning more than anything else. We didn't do a whole lot of football stuff. And the kids have really bought into the speed stuff. They really worked at it. And I'd say defensively right now, we're as fast a defense as we've ever been. And that means, I don't mean just flat out 40 speed. I mean fast getting to the ball and fast. Mm-hmm. We're playing very fast. We have a lot of guys back. Our entire secondary is back from last year. Alex Nicolaitis, another one of our captains, outside linebacker and tight end. Will Rosneski, another sophomore or junior who played last year a lot as a sophomore. We have guys that one of the keys to playing fast is to know what you're doing. We have guys that know what they're doing, and we have guys who put an emphasis on developing speed, and that combination allows you to play fast. And when you can play fast, that's a really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into your opponents in a few minutes, but listen, the defense has always been stout with the Jags. I mean, there have been times, so many times that we've watched games, and that defense just comes up big all the time, specifically and mostly against the run. But even secondary has improved, I think, every year that we've come back and watched. So yes, adding that, and I think that stoutness against the run is, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, about, again, smartness, knowing what's coming potentially, fundamental footwork, but also now that you add the dimension of speed, it can only get, and I'm hearing it can only be better.
Right. We're a big team, a big proponent of fundamental skill work. We read keys. Everybody on our defense reads a key on the offense. It tells them where to go. And if the guys read their keys and go where they're supposed to go, and they go with the proper fundamentals, and they have their shoulder square, and they have their feet in the right place, and they play with the aggressiveness that we're playing with, we're playing so aggressively again because we know what we're doing and we're confident. Mm-hmm. And you couple that with speed. The only time that Lower Merion moved the ball is when we made a mistake. And we made a mistake that were kind of first game type mistakes because the kids got kind of excited. We just needed to settle down, and once we settled down, we're really tough to move the ball on.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, listen, jitters, excitement, first game. Did you? How many? So let me ask you a question. So I understood that a parent, or maybe was it two parents, or two people from a family were able to come in. What was the atmosphere like when you came out from the locker room for the opening kickoff?
Well, it's interesting. We weren't even allowed to go in the locker room.
Oh, you weren't?
So we didn't go into the locker room. We came to the field. We checked the kids in. They have to do their temperature checks, and we have to ask the questions. Have you been exposed? Blah blah blah.
Right.
After we did that, we did our walkthrough, and then we walked up onto the field for pregame. After pregame, we walked down to outside of the locker room because we have a traditional walk, an approach to the field that we do, and we wanted to do that.
Right.
And then when we got there, Mr. Bruner, our AD, has done a spectacular job of creating opportunity for people to come to the games. We're the only school in the Central League that allows fans from both teams to come. Most Central League teams will allow your senior parents to come for an away game.
Okay.
But we've allowed every player on both teams, the cheerleaders, the band, to have two guests each. So we had a pretty good atmosphere up there at the game, having the band there, having the cheerleaders there. Mm-hmm. They do a spectacular job. They work really hard. And it felt, obviously it wasn't the big crowd that we're used to, but the people who were there were animated. They were spirited. They were as thrilled to be there, I think, as the players were thrilled to be there. And it was as realistic an atmosphere as we could expect under the circumstance.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. My wife and I were like, I knew how to work. But I was like, oh, maybe we can. And I went on the website and I was looking and going, well, I ain't getting in. Who can I bribe to get me a ticket? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so happy I was. Listen, the YouTube feed was terrific. It was. I don't know if they got a better camera, but that was a clear picture. So in case anybody asks, yeah, it was really clear. I was watching on my iPad, It was like I was watching
Uh-huh.
TV. It was awesome. So that's great.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so you've got Conestoga coming up. They were down 21-0. I read, and they came back to cut it to 21-14, and then looks like I read that they have Ridley got two picks, and basically that was the end of the game. So how are you prepping, and who are you looking at for the Conestoga game on Friday?
So Conestoga, since we joined the Central League in 2008, I would say that Conestoga is one of the teams that has had the most talent of any teams that we've played against, year in and year out. They always have some talented kids. They always have some good-sized kids. They always play physical football. So this year's Conestoga team is no different. They're pretty big. They have their quarterback really throws the ball well. They have a very diverse offense. They run a lot of counter. Their running game is based off the counter.
Okay.
Their passing game is we call a mesh concept, where they have receivers crossing over the middle of the field. The quarterback's mobile. He likes to throw the ball, and he does a good job of doing so. They have receivers who can catch it. So defensively, our job is going to be, we need to be sound. We need to hopefully utilize that speed and that quickness that we have.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure we're on top of our receivers. Hopefully we can get, a pass rush in there to force some hurried throws, and maybe we can pick a couple of those off. Defensively, they're a 3-3 stack team, and they love to blitz.
Oh, they do. Okay.
They're very active on defense, and my thinking on blitzing is you live and die with the blitz.
Okay,
you
right.
might get a good one in there.
Mm-hmm.
You might get a good one in there and get a big play, but if you guess wrong, you're going to be in trouble.
So, Mike,
so teams don't usually blitz too much against us, but
right.
You never know.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you as a coach. So this is a question, again, as a fan, from, again, high school, college, and pros. Do you get a sense, does your defensive coordinator get a sense, are there tendencies, let's say it's third, on a third and, do they tend to blitz at a 3rd and 6, or are they specifically looking at keys on what you guys on the offense are how you guys are lining up? How does that work?
So every week it's different. So if you look at it from a defensive point of view, our defensive coordinator, Jeff Allison, and our defensive staff, one of the things that I'm so proud of with them is not only are they great coaches, great communicators, but they're great preparers. So what they do is they break down all the information that we have from the team that we're playing. They'll break down last year's game. They'll break down film of every game that we have this year. And we'll look and we'll find tendencies that they have. Mm-hmm. So we'll know when we get to a 3rd down what Conestoga typically likes to do on 3rd down. And, of course, that doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Right.
But we'll call our defense based on the personnel that they have on the field mm-hmm. and the tendency that they have in those different situations, or the tendency that they've had during the course of a game. So we're not a real blitzy type team,
right?
But we'll blitz in situations, or we'll blitz when we know the tendency calls for it,
mm-hmm.
or we'll blitz when we know that a team is unsound with their protection. A couple years ago we played against a team and we blitzed almost every play, which I've never done in all the years I've been the head coach.
Uh-huh.
But we did it because it was a huge advantage for us, because we found a flaw in their scheme and we were able to exploit that.
You were okay.
So for us, from an offensive standpoint,
yes,
we do the same thing. We like to see what have they done, so we have breakdowns. The way we can break down our data, we can see, okay, 3rd and between 5 and 10, this is what they've done in their defense. They blitz this number of times. If the ball's on this hash, the ball's in the middle of the field, depending on where it is, we have an idea of what they might do, and then we call our plays accordingly based on that.
Okay, so and that play might be. So what might a play be? Let's say you're assuming a blitz. Would it be more of a quick pass, or could it be a quick hitter up the middle with a back?
Yeah, it could be either one.
Yeah.
Our blocking scheme for our running game is designed. We practice today against them, blitzing all 8 guys up front and making sure that our linemen are taking the proper steps. And if they do that, the problem for them is there's no secondary level.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
A few years ago when. My son was a junior. I guess it was maybe 2016 season. We played an away game against a team that ran the same defense that blitzed like crazy, and one of our backs had 230 yards rushing.
Yeah, right. Because you just ran him, and once he got through, there is nobody catching him.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's good. See, I never played football. I'm like Mike. I'm 5'4". I don't think I was like 5'2" when I. Now this week, you probably could have snuck me in. I'm just saying. 80 guys played. Give me a 00. Give me a uniform. No one's gonna know how old I am. Just throw me on the field.
You could have pulled it off, Mitch. I have no doubt.
Oh, just throw me. Just send me deep. Just my hands are great. All right, Mike. Listen. Best of luck to you this week. I will try to listen. I'm left to come, but I got my in-law, my mother-in-law, and my brother-in-law coming into town, so we're gonna probably do something with them. But I'll be watching on YouTube or trying to figure out how to watch, and then we'll talk more about hopefully that win next Tuesday.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I hope so.
All right, Mike. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Mitch. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Appreciate you coming on, Mike. Take care.
Yep. Tell the girls hello.
I will do that. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So long.
So Coach Ricky giving us a little bit of insight as to how high school football works. Love hearing the ins and outs. Like I told him, I never played a lick of football. I'm too small. But I love, as a fan, hearing about the different schemes and how he, as a high school football coach, listen, it's I think it's a lot more intense than it used to be, and I'm sure they have more data, and they're doing some analytics, in looking at the tape, seeing what the other team does. Again, tendencies, and it's fun to hear about, from a head coach's point of view, in a very good league, how he attempts to figure some things out. So thank you to Mike Ricky. He'll be on again next week talking about the game versus Conestoga that he's playing on Friday at home at Moda Frank Stadium in Garnet Valley, Pennsylvania. All right, before we get to Brendan Deeg will be coming in to talk about the Eagles game. I once again wrote copious notes that we will review with Brendan about the play calling and about our friend Carson Wentz, quarterback, and other things that happened during the game. But before we do, if you are listening to me on Twitter or on Facebook, here is another way to do that, and that is to go to Zingo TV on channel 761. You see, what you need to do is go to download Zingo TV app on your television, your smart TV. Okay? Once you do that, put in 12OZ, and you'll be able to listen to all of our shows on that particular platform. You need to check it out. You can listen to me. You can watch some of our other hosts as they have video, and it's a great way to listen to all of our shows. Like I said, simple platform. You can keep it on, have it in the background while we're here talking and providing some great sports talk, some guests, listening to different sports, including hockey and basketball. And following me tonight, I have my buddy Lou on the Sweet Lou Extravaganza. He's got, I believe, Mike Gamelin coming on talking WWE. So we run the gamut, folks. You can also check out our blogs and podcasts on 12ouncesportsradio.com, that website. We are 12-Ounce Sports on 12ouncesportsradio.com. So download Zingo, channel 761, Zingo TV. We are on channel 761. And use the promo code 12OZ when signing up. It's that simple. You'll be able to get us there as you need to. All right. So, Eagles coming up with Brendan. Dallas Cowboys game coming up, Sunday Night Football. I'm guessing Brendan's going to say the same thing he did last week. but with it's maybe just a little bit more positivity that the Eagles are going to win this game. Because if any of you watched the Dallas Cowboys game, the way the Dallas Cowboys have been playing all year, and now with the continued infighting with the coach, and the fact that Andy Dalton, the big news for the game on Sunday, Andy Dalton got clocked. It was a really nasty hit. The player did get ejected. His name was Bostic. He did get ejected, but Dalton's got a concussion. So now the Dallas Cowboys are on their third string quarterback. And I say this with a bit of trepidation. I don't know, and I'm going to ask Brendan this, how is he feeling about a third string quarterback that the Eagles have never seen? Now, he's going to say, come on. He may say, come on, third string quarterback, give me a break. And that's true for the most part. But, it's the Eagles, and they tend to, and they have been playing down to the opposition's abilities. So it's going to be interesting to watch this game and to see what Brendan says. Hey, hello, Brendan.
What's going on, Mitch?
Hey, Brendan,
What's
how
going on,
are you,
Mitch?
buddy? How's your week?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. You sure as heck weren't doing well Sunday during the game. I was tweeting with you.
I was.
Oh my gosh, Brendan.
Definitely came right down to the wire. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh, I was in stitches at some of the stuff you were saying. We were watching, obviously, the same game, and they won. They won the game, Brendan. How about that?
Yeah, they pulled it off, but there's definitely some dramatics involved in between. That's for sure.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
Oh my God! So the first thing I want to bring up with you, my gosh, the first drive. That drive was the best drive of the year.
Yeah, they came right out the gate.
Yes.
Drove right down the field, and then they decided not to play on offense until the fourth quarter.
I know. So my notes said did you notice the first play, Brendan? A misdirection to Deshaun Jackson for 12 yards. Oh my gosh! I mean, it was crazy, and then so I'm looking at my notes and the plays. You had a +5 with Scott, a +5 with a 10 with Jackson. Scott 5 and 10. Of course, went up the middle with 1. A pass to Ward for 8. Now the 3rd and 1 with Wentz. That sneak was ridiculous. I said when we went, oh my God, here we go. And then they went 4th and 2 when he got 6. And then they were backed up with a penalty. 2nd and 1 pass to Rodgers for 17 yards. Wow. Are you kidding me? And then they got into the end zone. 13-play drive, aggressive drive. Was very impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one of the better drives that they put together all season. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the kind of like start of the year. I don't know if you remember the very first drive of the year against Washington. Like it was kind of like they drove right down the field and took care of business, and then the game kind of went similar ways, to be honest.
Yeah.
But you know what? The first drive, what I did like, it seems like when it's scripted, this team's fine. Like when they have their drive scripted, that's either like coming out of the first half or starting the game. It seems like that's when they're at their best. It's when the team's scripted. Like Doug probably had 15 plays off the bat to run, and then it works. And then it seems like it struggles when you get on the fly.
It was amazing. I mean, and it's funny because, I think a lot of people see this. They do that quasi hurry up offense. It seems to work all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like when they're going in tempo, that's when they're at their most comfortable. But that's the problem. It's hard to go tempo all game.
Right. So
you need to pick and choose your spots. And I feel like Doug needs to do a better job of doing that. So
yeah, he does. I mean, the second set of downs, it was a 3 and out. Yeah, Wentz held the ball on 3rd and 9. Again, held the ball, continues to hold the ball. He overthrew Fulgham on 1st down, which was too bad. I mean, listen, and I get on Wentz for overthrows, but yeah, it's not no quarterback. And I have to myself try and stop berating him for missing passes because even if the guy's wide open, people miss them. Quarterbacks miss it all the time, so it's not that big a deal. But the defense. So Carson, and I was telling this to some folks this week. It's so funny to watch him play. He's either really good or really bad. With him, it seems like there's no in between.
Yeah, you're right. I said this on my podcast the day after the game with Carson Wentz. Look, it was heroic at the end. Like he played some of the best football I've seen him play, maybe even in his career in the last 6 minutes and 12 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when he still got the ball down to 12 or 11. So I think there was 6 minutes. I could be wrong, could be less, could be more. I don't remember the exact time. That was some of the best football Carson Wentz has played in his entire career. Literally, he leading 2 touchdown drives in which you didn't get the 2-point conversion in the first time, so you had to score a touchdown the second one. And he did. However, he didn't play very well ahead of that. Take away the first drive. Okay, he was 13 of 28 for the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
That can't happen. That can't happen. And you know what? A lot of it was on him too. It wasn't like it was the teammates around him. Like the offensive line didn't have a very good day.
Right.
Jordan Mailata looked like he had his worst game as a pro.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Suo Peta had. So they started this stat's hilarious. There's 6 offensive linemen this year has made their debut with the Eagles. 6. So that means there's been 6 different players making their Eagles debut this year, just in one position, which is spectacular. Suo Peta was the 6th, obviously, filled in at guard. He had a really rough day. It was his first start. He was going against Tomlinson, who was a top interior defender. So it was a tough matchup for him. But in general, like the offensive line, I actually thought didn't play as bad as it looked. I actually thought a lot of it was on Wentz. I thought a lot of it where he was rolling out of the pocket when he didn't need to. That one interception was terrible when he was trying to throw at the high tower, which was double covered in the corner of the end zone. Yes. There was no need. There was absolutely no need to throw the ball there.
Just throw it.
So
out
yeah,
of
I
bounds.
thought I thought a lot of the Eagles mistakes on offense in this game were actually Carson Wentz's fault. But again, it's not. We won. The Eagles won, and Wentz played well down the stretch. But fans just need to understand, there's the biggest problem right now is you're seeing these mistakes that have been there since year one with him. Mm-hmm. The rolling out of the pocket too early, the fumbling issues, the random interceptions that you kind of just shake your head at. Mm-hmm. They're still, and it's been 5 years. So that's definitely frustrating for Eagles fans when you're seeing your franchise quarterback just not progress in certain areas. If that makes sense, in certain ways, this is what should have been worked on right away in 2016. It should have been let's try to take away the fumbling issues. Let's try to take away his pocket presence, because in 2017 his pocket presence was fantastic. Right? That was part of the reason he was so good. Was he knew when to step up in the pocket, he knew when to move, and it doesn't seem like right now he's very comfortable in the pocket. So I think that's definitely something to watch going forward.
Yeah, and listen. How many of us would be comfortable in the pocket? So right now with that,
it makes complete sense. I think the problem. I think he's seeing ghosts maybe from week one. Week one. I think he's kind of every time there's even sort of a sniff of the pocket collapsing, it seems like he takes off, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's part of the issue was in previous games where the pocket collapses, he's just seeing ghosts there. I think that will come this year. I don't think he'll be like that for the rest of the year, but it was definitely on display in the New York game. There was at least 5 plays where he was rolling to his left and right when he didn't need to.
Yeah, and I just think that the design, the more design play rollouts, and the quick hits. You're watching. again, I'm trying to remember. I told you, when you get old, you forget who you're watching. But some of the games we watched over the weekend, you're in a shotgun, or not even in a shotgun, but you're doing you're up behind center, and it's like a 2-step drop and let the ball go. I think that was Monday night.
Yeah.
My wife and I were watching the game. It was Monday night. It's like 2-step drop, look up, put it in the flat to somebody. Somehow, again, Doug. I don't understand it. I don't understand how you're not designing, and he sees what the offensive line is. Why can't he design plays that keep Carson safe?
Yeah. I have this crazy theory around this. I don't know, like you remember last year, and it was pretty prevalent last year. This team was very slow getting the ball up the field. The drives were 16 plays long at some points, where you're having 16 play, 8-minute drives, and then something happens late in the drive, you don't get anything out of it.
Yes.
So what happened is this offseason is the Eagles emphasize speed. They emphasize getting guys that can run and they're quick. And yeah, that's all fine and dandy. But I think what you're seeing is, I think, maybe a little overcorrection of the playbook right now. Like, they're trying to hit the deep ball almost every single play, and they're trying to get this deep shot every single play. Maybe not every single play, but pretty prevalent that the short passing game just isn't there right now.
Yep. It's not there.
I don't know. I don't know if that's by design. But in my opinion, it is. I think this is, like I said, I think this organization does it all the time. They always overcorrect their issues from the year before, and I think you're seeing that right now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, listen, there is talent there. What have we found? We found, listen, Boston Scott played well. Listen, he's a little bowling ball. Back in the day, you had some guys who were like, and Boston Scott isn't this big. He doesn't weigh that much, like 240, but he is able to move guys after he gets the ball, right?
Yeah.
Fulgham, absolutely positive. Hightower, been positive. In terms
Let's go with deep threat right now. I think the Eagles. I think what this game made me realize is I think they actually might be okay at the wide receiver position going forward for now.
Yeah.
Look, Travis Fulgham. He has the most receiving yards since week 4 in the league. He's second, actually. Sorry. And there's only one more person ahead of him, and that's Robbie Anderson. Sorry. He's second. Fulgham has the stats behind his game that we're seeing. And look, John Hightower looks like a legitimate deep threat right now. Like, he's able to get open downfield. Finishing the play has been a different story. Mm-hmm. But this is now 3 games in a row where he's been open deep downfield, and they've had chances to connect with him. And there hasn't been an Eagles wide receiver has never had a game with rookie Eagles wide receivers never had a game with 50-yard catches in back-to-back games, and Hightower just had that. So you know what I mean? So he's getting open. So I think they found their deep threat in him. He's going to take some time to develop. Like, I still think he's got some deep ball tracking issues, which will get figured out. And he was a very raw prospect coming in anyways.
Right.
So, but I think they got something there. You got something in Fulgham, definitely. And then Jalen Reagor comes back. It looks like he's going to play on Sunday night.
Really?
And I'm very, very, he's on track. He's been activated off IR, so his 21-day practice window is open. It's a thumb injury too, right? So The way I kind of think of it is, if you're able to practice and catch balls in practice, then I think you're probably good to go for the game. You know what I mean? Like, if you're able to catch a ball, like when it comes to a hand injury receiver, it's either like kind of like, hey, you're not practicing. If you're not practicing, then you're not playing. If you are practicing, you are playing. So I would assume he's back on Sunday. That just makes sense. I don't really see the point of throwing him out in the practice field, catch some balls, and potentially re-injure his thumb, right? So I think he's probably good to go, and that's exciting for Eagles fans. You got Fulgham, Hightower, Greg Ward, and Jalen Reagor right now. You have 4 guys under the age of 26 who are all able to play in the NFL right now, and I think that they've got something here, and I think that's that's kind of was my takeaway a lot of the past few games. Is the wide receiver position that doesn't look like this is the Achilles heel of the team, which it has been for the past 3 years.
Right.
The past couple of years, the wide receiver position has basically been the reason why this team hasn't progressed farther. Like, if you take a look at the 2018, 2019, they had nothing. The cover was so bare, wide receiver, and of course Wentz's injury last year in the playoffs. But this team's got something at that position. So I there's plenty of other holes on the roster, but I think they can kind of maybe scratch that off of their to-do list this offseason.
Yeah.
I think they still need to add a vet. Like Allen Robinson, I had my eye on him. Kenny Galladay, a guy like that, like just one more veteran guy to pair with these four young wide receivers, and Kez Watkins a fifth. We haven't seen him yet, but look, they've definitely got something cooking here at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's just all of a sudden, ba-boom, the floodgates open, and now you got a plethora of guys who can do this. So if in fact Rager comes back this weekend, so you're just running these guys in and out, taking their turns going on the field.
Yeah, I'd expect. I'm actually what I'm getting a vibe right now from this team that they don't want Alshon Jeffrey back. That's what I'm kind of getting to. It doesn't see, and I'm happy. I'm all for that. I didn't want him coming back anyways. I don't want him taking snaps from Travis Fulgham or Jalen Reagor or any of these guys. I want these guys on the field. They're young and they need to develop them. So, and it looks like from kind of what you're seeing from Howie Roseman and Doug, like it came out today that Alshon Jeffrey has barely been really practicing with the team. Like he's been kind of doing individual drills for the past 3 weeks. So like it almost seems like they're just holding on to him to see if they can get anything out of him, like for trade value, which is not going to happen. I really have a hard time believing that a team will take on Alshon Jeffrey this year. But to me, it doesn't look like they have any interest in putting him back on the field, which I'm all for. So I'd expect you'll probably see Travis Fulgham and Reagor on the outside with Greg Ward in the slot. And then you'll have John Hightower rotate. Then you'll have John Hightower rotate through as your kind of deep threat guy, in like the 30 to 40% of the snaps type of thing.
Okay.
But Reagor, if Reagor and Fulgham are fully healthy and Greg Ward, like that's a very exciting trio of wide receivers. And then if Dallas Goedert gets back, it doesn't look like he's going to be back this week. It looks like he'll probably be back week 10 against the Giants. That's there. Those are four guys under the age of 20. I think they're all on 25 or younger. Like that's exciting. And you know what? Like I'm not saying it's this year. Like I'm not telling Eagles fans to hop on the bandwagon this year, but it's definitely something to be excited for the fan base just for next year and for so on and so forth.
Yeah, and speaking of next year, what's interesting, I read this afternoon, did you see this, that before Ertz got hurt, they were shopping him. I think it was at the... Yeah. Who were the two teams? I forget.
It looked like the Packers and Ravens made offers today.
Yeah. So
that he was the one guy that I even we talked about this, like I think it was after week 4. I said like maybe it's time to trade Ertz. And that's probably when they started, and then they were probably holding off for the best offer. And then when he got hurt, you can't trade someone on IR, and his injuries will look 4 to 6 week ankle sprain or ankle break. I don't know exactly the diagnosis, but he'll be out for 4 to 6 weeks, so about 3 weeks to 4 weeks from now.
Right.
So he's not going to get moved. But this opens the door for a trade this offseason definitely, because he's going to be back this year, and they're going to have to play him. He's making a lot of money right now, and if they want to get anything for him in the offseason, they have to kind of showcase his talent.
Right.
And he's still a playmaker. Like you still got to put him on the field.
Of course.
Yeah, and so it's a really, really weird situation they got going on with him. I don't really know how they're going to go about this. I don't think there's any sort of contract extension or any chance that he's a Philadelphia Eagle in 2021 after what we're hearing.
Yeah, again, David Esser came on after you a couple weeks ago, and he intimated that he heard that Ertz most likely will not be part of this team next year. So that's what he had heard. He had some inside scoop. So
yeah, I doubt it. Like if you're Ertz too, like if you take it from his point of view, why would you want to? Like all the stuff going on around behind you, like all behind the scenes. Like Howie Roseman and Ertz got in like a fight at practice week 1 on the sideline. So like there's already been some bad blood between those two. And if you're Ertz, you got to look like this Dallas Goedert sitting right behind you. He's ready. I think he's ready to take on tight end number 1 role. Yeah. So if you're Ertz, you kind of want out, and I think it just makes sense for both sides to move on.
Yeah, I think you're right. So what do you think about our field goal kicker?
Yeah. So
yep.
I'm ready for a new kicker. I am. However, it's not going to happen, Mitch.
No.
You know why it's not going to happen?
Well, they're paying.
So it's going to cost it would cost the Philadelphia Eagles $7.4 million to cut Jake Elliott today.
Yeah.
That's isn't that crazy to you? Like who the hell made this contract? Like it's ridiculous. Like how the hell can you if you're a GM, right? You should be kind of making your contract for preparing your contract for a kicker to have the ability to cut him at any time, anywhere. Because kickers are very flaky. They're in and out, like they're hot, they're cold. So you have to be able to get away from your bad kicker in a snap of a second. And Howie Roseman just locked himself in a situation where he can't, because the Eagles can't afford to have $7.4 million against the cap hit to cut Jake Elliott. So they kind of have to stick with him. There's no getting rid of him.
Yeah.
And it's bonkers to me. It blows my mind that the fact that Howie Roseman put his team in this situation, and it almost kind of just puts this whole roster in a vacuum to say, like, we can't even get rid of our kicker right now because he's lost better players. It's ridiculous to me that they put themselves in that situation.
Well, the only hope is, and you say golfers get the yips, and there were a couple of guys in baseball who had trouble at some point in their careers. Not many, but second baseman, I forget who they were. They couldn't throw the ball to first. The catcher couldn't throw it back to the pitcher. I mean, those are significant. Those are things that go on in their heads. So whatever it takes, as a professional athlete, listen, and it's your own, right? Whether it's a golfer or a gymnast or a bowler, individual sports, tennis, you get something in your head, I can't imagine it not bothering you every time they go out. It's got to take a strong person to be able to say, okay, this is a whole new situation, a new game, gotta forget it.
It happens all the time in sports. Like the best example is golf. Like golfers, like you see, once it gets in their head, their career is kind of over. With the toughest part is being a kicker in Philadelphia is not easy. Like this is not going to be easy for Jake Elliott to get out of, right? Like, being the kicker of the Philadelphia Eagles is a lot of pressure, and the fact that he's already missed 350-plus yard field goals this year, and then shanked a 29-yarder on primetime TV.
Oh my God!
Like,
that was horrendous.
He's definitely feeling it right now. But the thing, like I just brought up, he's got security here. They can't get rid of him.
Yeah.
So he better get it figured out because they need him. Like there's no going around it. Like they need Jake Elliott's going to be the kicker for this team. So he needs to get it figured out because like it's still an important job. And no matter, I know the kicking game. Like I know there's a lot more teams going for it on fourth down and stuff like that, but kicker's still a very important job for teams, and they need him. They need him to get it figured out.
Yep. All right, so we have that incomparable Cowboys team on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! So give me your thoughts. I've got about 5 minutes. Give me your thoughts. What are you thinking?
So, I just finished recording my podcast, and I actually said on my episode. I watched the entire Cowboys-Washington game.
I did too,
on Sunday. I literally watched every snap, and I've honestly never seen a team just not care enough about winning. Like it didn't even look like they were trying. The missed tackles everywhere, just no effort. They scored 3 points on Washington. They couldn't even get a touchdown, and it looked like a completely defeated team in my opinion. And now they're starting a third-string rookie quarterback, 7th-round pick. And because it doesn't look like Andy Dalton's going to be back, so like now they're starting. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. DiMucci, is that his name?
DiMucci, yeah.
7th round. Yeah, so he's going in now. With it looks like they're getting Zach Martin back. The Cowboys, so they'll have 4. They're in the same boat as the Eagles. They're going to have 4 of their 5 offensive line starters are out. They have Zach Martin. That's it. So. I said on my podcast that if I was Jerry Jones, I'd fire Mike McCarthy like now. Like I think he needs to realize his mistake. Like Mike McCarthy, like they're going at it in the media together right now. Like they're pointing fingers at who's to blame. The Cowboys are a flat out dumpster fire right now, in my opinion. There's not a worse opponent, worse team right now in the NFL than Dallas Cowboys. So if the Philadelphia Eagles can't take care of business on Sunday night, there's serious issues And I think there are serious issues with the Eagles, but they need to take care of business here. Like the Dallas Cowboys have nothing going for them right now. They are on their third string quarterback. Like I said, 4 of their 5 offensive linemen hurt. Their coach is a mess. The ownership's a mess. Everything's a mess. And the Eagles are coming off a big victory on Thursday night. You got 10 days rest to prepare for this game.
Yeah.
This is like they need. This is like the perfect time to get like a nice 10 to 20 point win.
Yes.
And just kind of like relax, go into the bye week on a big high.
Yes.
And I wrote about this on 4th and John today. Like this, you're about to find out what this Philadelphia Eagles team is made of in these next 3 weeks. They play 2 games in the next 3 weeks. Sunday night against the Cowboys, and then they're at Giants on 1 o'clock in Week 10.
Yeah.
And they're going to be healthy. I'm not saying healthy, but the Eagles are going to get guys back. You're getting Rager back. You'll have Goddard back. It looks like Miles Sanders back. So there's going to be – I don't want to hear the injury excuse anymore in these next couple weeks because they're playing against an injury battle Dallas team, and then you got the Giants. So they need to be 4-4-1 after Week 10. If they're not 4-4-1 after Week 10, it's a mess. It's not acceptable in my opinion. And I already don't think it's the playoff team, but it looks like they're going to make the playoffs basically because the NFC stinks.
Right.
So they need to start proving and winning games. But yeah, on Sunday against Dallas, I have a hard. The only matchup, like the only problem I can really see is if like they get hot on the outside, like let's say Amari Cooper or like CeeDee Lamb, like a guy like that just has a crazy game.
Yes.
Like for the Cowboys, but like they haven't proven it. Like. I don't know if Demucci can even get the ball to him. Yeah, like so like I have a hard time finding another result than the fact the Eagles win. How much they win by, I don't know, but a loss on Sunday night to this Dallas team would probably be rock bottom.
Yeah, and that's the thing we were thinking about with 2 minutes left to go on last Thursday too.
Yeah,
but
I didn't think they were coming back. I thought this loss was like this is it. Like heads are going to start off to roll here. Like I thought you might see some coaching.
Yes, I thought the same thing.
And then 6 minutes later they end up winning. They're in a funny spot. Like, I don't remember being a fan of any team that's kind of just like in this weird like la la land place where like the team's bad, but we're making the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of just in this like, kind of no man's land right now, and they need to get out of it. So I think the way to do that is to have just 2 convincing wins in week 8 and then week 10, and then 4-4-1, and then you play Cleveland week 11, and then then you're in a good spot. Like then you got some momentum going, and your team's back healthy. So I think these next 2 weeks are very important for Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson.
I think. They get rolling again. I think they end up I think at least they should, and I think they will put the hammer down. And they know how bad the Cowboys are, and they're going to want to just smoke the crap out of them. I mean, they're going to want to just smoke them and put them down quick, and not let the hammer.
Yeah, and this team remembers last year, and I don't know if you remember, but I remember it. Like I think it was Week 7 of 2019. The Dallas Cowboys embarrassed the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. The Eagles went on the road, and I think it was 37-10 the final score last year. So this team remembers. Guys like Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, those guys remember that. So that's definitely in the back of their heads is some momentum, kind of just like some momentum to kind of get them going because they were flat out embarrassed on Sunday Night Football last year against the Cowboys. So I think they want some revenge. So I expect them to take care of business. Like I don't see a scenario where this third string Dallas Cowboys quarterback is going to lead them past Eagles, but create your things that.
All right, Brendan, I got to go. I got Art Shamsky coming up right after this. So I appreciate you calling in. Good luck to the Eagles, and we'll talk to you next week. We'll see what happens.
Sounds good, Mitch. Have a good one.
All right, thanks. Okay, I believe Brendan told us what he wanted us to hear. And I am waiting for Art Shamsky now to give me a call. So we're hoping that Art will give us a call. I believe he did try to call in, and I'm going to try and get back to him in a second here because we definitely don't want to miss him. He called a little early, so we're going to try and get him to give me a call back again. So we'll see. Hopefully he'll give me a call back in again. So be patient, folks, because we definitely need to talk to Art Shamsky. Oh, I think we got him coming back. Hello, Art.
Yeah.
Art, how
Yeah.
are you? This is Mitch.
Hi, Mitch. How are you?
Art, I'm doing terrific. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome.
Looking forward to speaking with you.
Oh, Art, this is an absolute pleasure for me. I really thank you for taking the time. I know you're going to be on with Ron Bloomberg at 7:45, so we'll get you out here at 7:30.
Don't worry about it. Man, let's make that guy wait a little bit. You know?
Oh, I have to be respectful. Art, listen, so much to talk to you about. But first thing I want to ask is this. So I saw, we've been following each other ever since I met you in Cooperstown a couple of years ago. It was a thrill for me to meet you. We didn't have a lot of time to talk when I understood that. You were talking to other folks, getting the book signed. But I do want to go over a couple things. We recently tweeted out to you, about the World Series, and you were not happy about how things are going in baseball. We're going to get to that a little bit later in the conversation. But I wanted to first talk to you about what Eric, your co-author, posted yesterday or 2 days ago, and have you having a catch with him and Buddy Harrelson. That was awesome.
Well, I hadn't seen Buddy in about a year, a little more than a year now, not since the 50th anniversary last June. And, I just wanted to kind of stay in touch with him and check in with him. I checked in with the people that are around him, but I wanted to see him, and Eric and I had talked about going out there, and so we decided to do it, really kind of not knowing how he would feel that particular day. It was interesting. I from the city, I ended up taking 4 trains to get there because of the track work out on Long Island Railroad, but it was well worth it because it was a great day for us, and it was interesting. I know Eric posted some photos, and I posted a video on my Twitter account of just talking about getting a chance to spend some time with him. But what we did is we went out and played catch on his front lawn and the front yard, and it was just I think it was therapy for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing about it is that while he might have unbelievably awful problems with this horrible disease, Alzheimer's,
mm-hmm.
he lost nothing in a sense that he was throwing the ball and catching the ball like it was just like any other day in his life. And I was amazed that I guess his muscle reactions are basically the same, and that was fine. And we soft tossed for about 20 minutes,
mm-hmm.
and it was just really nice to get out there with him and spend some time with him.
Yeah, I saw that, and it was just knowing the situation with Bud, having read the book, and then talking in Twitter conversations a little bit, or Facebook with Eric, knowing that he isn't in the best shape. But let me tell you something. You're right. Just the way he looked, the way he was throwing the ball. I mean, he was alert as can be. It seemed like, just from watching the video. And yes, that had to be heartwarming for you and Eric to see that.
Well, what's interesting is that when I used to play first base, when he was at shortstop, when I did get an opportunity to play first base, he never made a bad throw over to first base, and he was the same the other day, right there, belt high.
Yeah.
We were only 20, 30 feet away from each other, but it was just a nice thing. And what's really interesting, I've got overwhelming amount of wonderful responses from people who just were so gratified to see him out there and know that he's still around and viable, and thanking me and what have you. And it just was a wonderful thing. That, it was really kind of a nonchalant thing. We just wanted to go out and see him and say hello, and
yeah,
and it turned into something very, very special. And I'm so happy about. I thank people the next day about the response that I got. It was just unbelievable amount of people that really love him and care about him, and we're so happy to see him outside and know that he's still around and, like I said, viable.
And viable. Listen, it's interesting because, I work at a school and we do community service. There was a couple years ago, we were in a senior home in the Alzheimer's and dementia unit. And the program that we were asked to help run was called Music in Memory, because there was a gentleman who did some research, and music is something. There's a part of your brain when you hear music, and it happens to me, and I'm sure it happens to you. You haven't heard a song in years, and all of a sudden, you hear a song, and it brings you back, and it's proven results. And I'm wondering for Buddy and for you guys, that kind of, again, it brought him back to a time where he was playing with the New York Mets, and playing with you, and having that catch, and that baseball thing, like riding a bike, it never really leaves you, which was awesome to see.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm really glad we did it. It was not planned. It was just something that we decided to do. I don't know. It just was a wonderful experience to spend some time with them. We've lost too many guys from that '69 team, 10 or 11 guys, and it's we have a nucleus of wonderful friends and teammates still around, but some really important players from that team are gone, including a great manager, Gil Hodges, and all the coaches except Joe Pignatano. But guys like Tug McGraw and Don Clendenin and Tommy Agee and Don Cardwell and Cal Kuntz and Ed Charles is one of my favorite people of all time. It's just too many people and too many wonderful, wonderful guys. But the reality of it is we still remain friends. The guys that are around, and the guys who are not around will always be remembered by me as wonderful people. And we went to war with them. It's the good thing about 1969 in many respects is that it's one thing to win a championship like we did, but to be around those, for some of those guys, those losing years early on, like Eddie Kranepool and Ronnie Swoboda and a couple of the guys. And I was only there 1 year before in '68, and we finished ninth, a half game out of last place before there was divisions. But the thing about it is when you lose and you have a bad team and then go ahead and win it all, it makes it that much more special. And I think if we would have had a decent team and come in first or second the year before, it would have meant something, but it wouldn't have been the same. And I think the fact that we came from nowhere to win a championship, and I think that resonates with people. And over the years, I can't tell you how many people have come up to me now. It's 51 years, and people still want to talk about that team, and I understand that. And some people who weren't even born know about that team from their parents and their grandparents. And the beauty of it is that some of these stories have been passed on from generation to generation. And I do believe the '69 Mets are probably one of the most noted or notable teams in the history of baseball. I know you when you talk about the history of the game, you talk about the 27 Yankees with Ruth and Gehrig and all those great players. And there's a number of teams that you think about, but that '69 team, just something about it that people want to remember and talk about it. And if you think back, and you name a year, how many people can name, unless you're from that city, how many people can name a team that won that particular year? But if you say 1969, everybody knows the Mets won that year. So I'm so proud to have been part of that team. I played a lot of years, 13 years, and nobody talks about the other 12.
I know.
1969. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, and listen, you're talking to one of them. It was my first team. I was 14. First, my own team that won a championship. And that's probably why. I mean, it was our first championship. It wasn't expected. The one thing I remember from that year, and I think that came from reading the book also, After the Miracle, it seemed to me that almost every game there was a different hero. Whether it was Wayne Garrett or Eddie Charles or you, somebody came through to win with a big hit. It was absolutely amazing. And that's what championship teams do, right?
Well, exactly. And it's interesting because we definitely had some big stars, and none bigger than Tom Seaver. I think history will show he's one of the greatest pitchers ever to pitch in the big league. But it's true, everybody contributed to the team, and I think that's really one of the true legacies of that team, because when you talk about it, it's not just about Tom Seaver or Jerry Koosman or Cleon Jones or Tommy Agee. It's about the guys who really contributed something to the year. You mentioned all of the guys, including Eddie Kranepool and Jerry Grody and Rod Gasser.
Oh, yes.
Rob Bile Kuntz and Don Cardwell and Tug, of course, and just everybody had something to do with it. And I think that's the beauty of it because, Gil was a manager that was a tough, stern, disciplinarian kind of guy. But he got everybody involved in the game, and I think no matter if you felt like you should be playing or shouldn't be playing, he was going to get you in there somehow. And I think everybody appreciated that, and it worked out because everybody did, as you mentioned, everybody did contribute to the success of that team. And I think when people talk about it, they know the names of everybody.
Yes.
It's not like you just know Tom Seaver and Cleon Jones.
Correct.
And Tommy Yates. You know about those guys who played on that team, and I think that really makes me happy because everybody did contribute to the success of that team, and it's all of our lives changed on October 16th, 1969. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the amount of people that I come across who tell me that they were so kind of down and out because the world, much like it is now, was upside down. But the war in Vietnam was tearing this country apart, and I think and everything else with the strikes and the social unrest and everything else that was happening in New York City, I think we really kind of helped people get through a turbulent time, and they remember that, and they passed it on from generation to generation. What's also interesting, I think over the years I probably ran into 100,000 people who said they were at the last game in 1969, and I say to myself, that's great, but I think the ballpark only held about 53,000.
55, I think.
It doesn't make
Yeah.
any difference if they were there or not there.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make any difference. They were there in spirit, and so I appreciate that, and everybody remembers that wonderful time in our lives when it was just kind of so much fun to go to the ballpark, and I'll never forget, when I did play right field, I used to go out there and I could see right before the game these thousands, it looked like thousands of people rushing to get from that subway platform at Shea Stadium to get to the ball game because they didn't want to miss that first pitch, and they were treated. There were some wonderful, wonderful games, close games, rivalry games, just wonderful games that all of us are so happy to have been part of.
Yeah, it just, again, an amazing season for I think millions of us. If I can, I want to go back to the beginning. I was trying to get some information about your background, and it was a great comment that you made in there. Me being Jewish and you being Jewish and Eddie being Jewish, and that your mom really wanted you to be a doctor, which we all have heard. And my mom, I think, might be listening now and say, "Mom, I'm sorry. I got a radio gig, but I'm not a doctor," and that's okay. But what was it like growing up and as a Jew where you were living and becoming a baseball player? Give me a little bit of that history.
Well, my dad was just the opposite. My dad was kind of a frustrated softball player, athlete kind of person, and he took me out to play ball, play catch as soon as I could walk. And he was, and then of course I was growing up outside of St. Louis. We're big St. Louis Cardinal fans.
Mm-hmm.
Went to the ballpark, and he was a big fan, and I think that he would never have wanted me to do anything else but play baseball. So I think it was growing up was just for me a wonderful experience. I had friends who all they wanted to do was play baseball, and I look back on those years, and without those guys who would go to the park with me in the summer and spend all day just making up games and doing whatever to do to just have fun out there, I would have never gotten to get a chance to play even minor league baseball. So my life growing up had nothing to do with religion. And,
okay.
I always consider myself a baseball player that happened to be Jewish, and I never really had any problems. It was a wonderful life growing up, and the experience of playing baseball was just wonderful for me. But I am happy when people come up to me and talk to me about it and say they're proud of me and they're proud to know me, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's wonderful. If I can influence somebody in a positive way, even if it's a small way, it's fine for me. I appreciate that. But I have it's interesting now. When I was in the big leagues, there was only 4 or 5 Jewish players, including Sandy Koufax, of course, the best, most well known. But now I've done a little research and found out there's anywhere from 15 to 20 Jewish guys in the big leagues, and which is great. And
Yeah.
So, and it really shouldn't make any difference, because if you've got some ability, you'll make it to the game. Especially now, with there's more teams. But
Right.
But I have nothing to complain about. It was all good for me.
And here's the thing for me, and for a young fan, we tend to identify, and there weren't many. You and Eddie and Sandy were just a few, that you say, oh wow, that's pretty cool, because it is such a small affinity group, if you will, and it really did make a difference. And not that again that I was going to be a ball player, but the fact that, okay, he's Jewish, that's pretty cool, because we identify with being Jewish, and it was important for me to learn. And then, as you said, seeing more guys who are Jewish ball players, not that they happen to be Jewish, and they don't, again, aspire because they're Jewish. They have the talent to get there. But there are young kids, believe me, there are young kids out there now who are Jewish, who, just for the fact of being a fan, say, oh, that's pretty cool. He's one of us, if you will. So that is, I think, from my perspective as a fan, that's how we looked at it.
Well, I can certainly understand that, and what's interesting too, I had an opportunity to go over to Israel and manage a team when the Israel Baseball League started in 2007. It only lasted 1 year, but it was the beginning of baseball being developed over in Israel, and they went on to play in the World Baseball Classic and would have been in the Olympics if there would have been an Olympics this year. So baseball is growing, as a matter of fact, over there. But just get back to your point, is that I'm really happy if I can influence somebody in a positive way. But I must say that whatever success or no success I didn't have, it wasn't because of religion or anything else. But the
Right.
fact is, if I influence some youngster in some way, positive way, thinking that, I shouldn't be doing this, maybe I should, whatever, then I'm really happy about it, because, like I said, if you can influence somebody in a positive way, then you've accomplished something in your life. So for me, I'm very happy about my religion. I take it seriously. I'm not as religious as many people might think, but that's beside the point. The fact is that I hope that I've been a positive influence in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got to go back to the '69 series. I have to ask you this question. And these are two overlooked, actually, what is it, 4 overlooked catches? 2 by Swoboda, 2 by Agee? I mean, I got to tell you, they don't get enough credit for those catches in the annals of history and World Series catches. What did you guys, when you were watching them make those catches, what's the reaction in the dugout? I mean, listen, I don't know that Ron was the best right fielder. Tommy was pretty good, but I have got to tell you, on such a big stage, and for all of us watching those when we see them on video now, I still get the chills. What was your reaction when you saw those?
I did see Ronnie's from the bench, because he was playing right field that particular game, and that was one of the greatest catchers you ever want to see.
Oh my gosh!
Ronnie worked on his fielding a lot, and a lot of people don't realize this, but he did work on it a lot, and he had the presence of mind to make that play, get up and throw the ball. Run did score on the play from third base,
right?
Tied the game, then we won in extra innings, but it was just a phenomenal catch. In Tommy's case, I was in right field when he made the one to right center.
Mm-hmm.
You can see my legs running by him, telling him he's got plenty of room to make the play. I always teased him about that. I always used to tell him that post-baseball career that he made an easy play look hard, and you reaped the benefits from it all these years. But
yeah.
He made 2 fabulous catches in that game, and then hit a home run at the bottom of the first, saved some runs and drove in some runs, and just was an unbelievable game for him and a great series for him. And another guy who made great plays when he was out there was Eddie Charles at third base. In the second game, when we won game number 2 in Baltimore, he made a play on the very last batter. I think it was Brooks Robinson. Tough play at third base. Ron Taylor came in to get him out, and Eddie came up with the ball and made a play. There was a lot of terrific plays in that series, and And I must give credit too to Brooks Robinson at third for the Orioles. He played great too. But on our side, the catch by Swoboda, the two catches by Agee, the plays by Ed Charles were just phenomenal plays, and we had it all together that year.
You did.
We had great fielding, terrific pitching, and timely hitting. The hitting came through in the playoffs against Atlanta. Our pitchers didn't pitch well, and we scored a lot of runs against the Braves, who had a terrific hitting team. They didn't have the pitching that we had, but we won those games. We swept them in 3, and then went in the series of Baltimore. Nobody gave us a chance to win that. We lost the first game. I actually made the last out of the first game, the only game we lost. And then Kuzman pitches a terrific game 2, and if we don't win that, we come back home 0-2, and we might lose 4 in a row. But that game was really, to me, the most important game. A lot of people think Game 3 when we won that game against Jim Palmer, that was the most important game. But I think Game 2 was the most important game, and Gary Gentry against Palmer in Game 3. But if we don't come back from Baltimore with a split, we're liable to lose 4 in a row.
Right.
So everything fell into place for us, and it was a great combination of pitching, hitting, and hitting. I'm sorry, hitting, pitching, and fielding. But those catches that you talk about were just amazing, and Swoboda's will go down as one of the greatest in World Series history.
And we want to make sure that people listening know. Listen, you batted 5. You were 7 for 13 in the NLCS. So you had a great NLCS, and we need to make sure people know that.
Yeah, thank you. It was a good series for me. Unfortunately, they started 3 right-hand pitchers, and Ronnie and I were splitting right field duties, and they started the left-hander Mike Cuellar in the first game, and of course I was disappointed. But the thing was, we knew what our jobs were. We all pulled for each other, and then he set me up to pinch hit with 2 outs in the 9th inning and the tying run. I was the tying run, I think, at home plate, and I ended up grounding out to second base. Davey Johnson was playing in second base then, and I could have been a hero, but was not to be. But I did have a great playoffs against Atlanta. Thank you for bringing that up, and it was again, you just proved the point that you made earlier, that everybody on that team contributed to the success of our victory, and I think it's always going to be remembered by so many people.
Absolutely. All right, last thing to talk about. I got about 8 minutes or 7 minutes. So the initial contact for us for this conversation came from my reaction to you when you stated that you really weren't watching any postseason because it wasn't what you wanted to see with baseball. So I tweeted back to you that, hey, it is competitive. Listen, I get it. Listen, I'm an old school guy too. Where's the bunting? Where's the sacrifices? Where's the stolen bases? Where's the old school baseball? But Art, can you see how these guys, everybody coming in is throwing 95 miles an hour? I love the fact that these young kids are coming up that we don't even know about beforehand, and they're making a little mark for themselves. That's what I kind of like about it.
Well, there's no doubt these guys are throwing hard, and guys can run fast, and they're bigger and stronger than when I played. But the game is different from me. I don't follow it as much as people might think. I just don't see a lot of really good hitters out there. I do check the box scores, and what I check are strikeouts, walks, number of pitchers in the game, and time of game. And when I grew up and when I played in the big leagues, it was a much faster game. And I happen to like, and there's arguments on both sides. I happen to like the fact when there's a bunt situation and infielders are moving around and all sorts of things can happen. It also gives the fans a chance to second guess the manager. If I was playing, let me qualify this. If I was playing, I would love the DH because it would certainly help my career. But I'm just not crazy about seeing all these strikeouts, and I need to see some action in the game. And the game is now about home runs and strikeouts and walks, and every game is anywhere from 3.5 hours to 4 hours long. And I just don't. That's just not the game that I remember as a kid growing up. I still love the game. I think it's the greatest game in the world. It teaches humility. It teaches teamwork. It teaches all sorts of wonderful experiences. But for me, as having played the game and learned it as a kid growing up, I just think that it's just not the game that I remember. Every game has got 20 strikeouts minimum, and anywhere from 8 to 12 walks. I mean, that's just not what I want to watch as a fan. So, I just don't watch it as much as people might think. But I still love the game. I wish it was just faster paced, and I wish there was more action in the game. I don't know what the National League is going to do after this in terms of the designated hitter, but I happen to like that where the pitcher's hitting and their strategy in the game. I played all the managers I played for in the minor leagues and then in the big leagues were all managers that manage games by feel.
Right.
Now, there's no more feel in the game. I don't know. Maybe you know a manager that manages that way, but it's all about the sabermetrics and the printouts, and everything is prearranged, and that's not, that's, to me, baseball is about having a sense of your players and strategizing and doing things to help your team can win. You're never going to see a guy give up his at bat to move a runner from second to third with nobody out.
No,
you're never going to see that. It's all about home runs, like I said, and doubles and RBIs, and that's how you make your money. And I understand that. And for pitchers, it's all about getting through that first 2, 3, 4 innings, and then getting some relief pitchers coming in, and et cetera. But I played in an era. Mitch, so you'll have to understand my mentality. I played in an era that had in the National League. Just listen to these names, pitchers. All right, Marichal, Perry, Koufax, Drysdale, Sutton, Beaver, Kuzma, Gibson, Carlton, Ferguson, Jenkins.
Oh,
the list was on. Guys who pitched complete games.
Yes.
And pitched, would never give up the ball after unless they just didn't have it. And just
right.
And so, and the hitters I saw: Mays, Aaron Clemente, Stargell, McCovey, Billy Williams, Johnny Bench, Pete Rose. The list goes on and on and on. And so all Hall of Famers. So for me, the game is a little bit different. I never begrudge anybody from playing now, making the money. More power to them. But I just have patience. I just don't have the patience to watch a game and guys take pitches and strike out. And nobody cares about striking out anymore. I just don't believe it. Guys strike out 150, 170 times a year. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
You know who would be the great designated hitter right now?
Who?
Dave Kingman.
Oh my gosh.
Dave Kingman would be the best designated hitter ever because he was home run or nothing.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So I thought about that. Again, it's my opinion, but he would be a perfect DH now because you go up 4 times, strike out 2 or 3, hit a home run. That's the game. But that's with me. I still love the game though.
Yeah. I mean, for me, as I've gotten older, again, I'm old school too, Art. I mean, I grew up with watching you guys for sure. The DH, I think, is inevitable, which takes out that strategy, which I loved. I do, though, like the fact that you do have... It's just, for me, fun to watch the guys like Rosarina, the young kids who you don't expect to do anything, but, my gosh, who is this guy? And now he's a household name. And that's what makes it fun for me right now.
Well, it's a wonderful game. That's what I said. Baseball is a wonderful game, and there's always going to be guys who you don't really know much about, and all of a sudden they get to that platform where they're able to get on stage and they're able to make a name for themselves, and that is one of the beauties of the game, and I do appreciate that also. There's like I said earlier, these guys today are bigger, stronger, faster. They're I don't know how much better they play the game because remember when I came up there was less teams. You had to spend more time in the leagues learning your skills, learning how to play the game, and now you rush to the big leagues, and consequently I think you lose something by not playing against that really good competition in the minor leagues. But that's the world we live in now. Remember I started there was only 16 teams, and they went to 20.
20.
And 4, and now they're up to 30. So there's a lot more opportunity. But guys are rushed to the big leagues. But more power to them. I've learned a long time ago that everything in life is about timing, and so it's being in the right place at the right time. But I saw a lot of great young players, whether they're infielders, outfielders, catchers, pitchers, who never got the opportunity because there just was no room in the big leagues.
Right.
Either they they got hurt or they just were weeded out. But now with the way it's set up, there's so much opportunity, and again, life is about timing. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I always get a lot of questions about who was the toughest pitcher. Should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? And don't you wish you were playing now, making all the money they're making? And my first answer to that is, of course. What are you, crazy? I wish I was making it. But the reality of it, real true reality is, I wouldn't trade it for that World Series ring I got with the Mets, and I wouldn't trade it for that era of baseball that I got a chance to play with and against some of the greatest players in the history of the game. So for me, it's all been good. Life has been good, and I appreciate talking to people like yourself who understand the game, who appreciate the game, and can reminisce with me. And it's always great to talk to somebody like yourself.
Well, I appreciate that. Listen, Art, again, you go back to your childhood, and it's just one of those things that sticks in your head as a lover of sports, and baseball, my first love, and still is the best sport for me. And I continued to play it up until 3 years ago in my 60s. So it's one of those things where it's in your blood, you're passionate about it, and I just thank you for, and I've said this to other folks and book signings and things, thank you for playing the game the right way. Thank you for continuing to allow me to enjoy the game. Thank you for being such a nice person, and just allowing me to enjoy you and that team, and obviously coming on for tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If I could just mention, I'm doing a podcast now. It's up on it's just simply the Art Shamsky podcast. I interview some top sports people and some top entertainment people, and it's on all the major podcast platforms like Spotify, iHeart, Stitcher, and Apple Podcast. And then you can go to my website, which is www.artshamsky.com, and it's on that podcast page there. And then also I have Twitter. People can follow me at Art Shamsky, which I really enjoy kind of connecting with people in that way. And of course they can get my book on my website.
Absolutely. Get the book, After the Miracle. Oh my gosh, it's awesome.
I sign it personally for them, and also my first book also, and also I'm doing cameos. I don't know if you know about Cameo.
Yeah, I have heard about Cameo. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on Cameo.com. It's an interesting concept. I enjoy it because people can contact me through Cameo, and I can do a personal video for them, either for a birthday, a bar mitzvah, a wedding, a anniversary, or whatever it might be. So those are a lot of fun. What I'm trying to do is just stay connected, Mitch. I think it's important this time of crisis and all over the world right now to stay connected with people like yourself and fans and anybody that wants to kind of connect with me. Those are the best ways to do it. So again, thanks for having me on. It's been great talking to you.
Same here, Art. Appreciate you very much. Stay well, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
All
again.
Right, you got it.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye. So that was just awesome. Haven't ever talked to a World Series champion before like that, and I'm on cloud 9 now. So now I get to talk to Craig Calcaterra, who will be giving me a call in just a second, to talk a little more about baseball and his Cup of Coffee newsletter, which is just amazing. So Craig, go ahead and give me a call right now, and we'll get you on and we'll get going. I can't wait to talk to Craig. Been involved in baseball all his life, except for the time when he was a lawyer, I guess. And we'll see what's going on. He's messaging me right now. I'm telling him he can call right now. Let's see what he says. Okay, Craig, we are waiting for you. So, here he comes. Here we go. Hello, Craig.
Hey, Mitch, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Thanks for your patience. I appreciate it.
Hey, no worries, man. Anybody who played on the 1969 Mets and has a World Series ring gets priority over me.
I'm so excited about being able to do this and connect with folks like him and now yourself, because I find you, Craig, so fun and entertaining. I couldn't wait for you to come on.
Well, thanks.
I mean, you had me and my wife in stitches the other morning with your cup of coffee about the kids. I mean, I'm telling you about being a good fibber, being a good liar, and your daughter's reaction to him. I mean, we were on the floor. Literally, we almost fell on the floor laughing. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. So thank you for now I'm reading it every morning. Folks, if you haven't got this, you have to read it. And Craig, you're calling it, it's a newsletter, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
it's a newsletter on Substack, which is becoming a more popular thing. But yeah, you get it as an email every day. It's called Cup of Coffee, and it just shows up in your email inbox. And if you're on the East Coast, it's usually there before 7 a.m.
Yep.
And 5 days a week, and it's everything you need to know about the world of baseball before you've had your first cup of coffee.
And more. I mean, and that's why it's great, because I don't need caffeine. I don't drink it, but if I did, I wouldn't need it, because I keep reading this every morning and I start laughing. So thank you for that. And you're also a cat dad, right? You love cats.
Yes.
Well,
yes, I have two right now.
Yeah.
I've had as many as 4 in the last couple of years.
Okay.
But 2 cats now, and I've always had cats. I don't think other than being in the college dorms, is the only time I've not had cats in my life.
right. So that's why I knew you and I would get along, because I am also a cat dad, and we have also had 4 recently. We had to put 2 down the past. I guess it's been 12 months in the year, which is really really
Same
hard.
here.
Yeah, I mean,
It was crazy. I did one in February and then one late last summer, and it stinks. But cats are the way cats are. Sometimes you get a defective one.
yes, you get a defective one. But the thing is, I am convinced that the more love you give them, the longer they live.
Oh yeah.
And we've had the 2 that we had to put down. One was 19, and the other one was I think 17, 16. So you give them love, they appreciate it, and they stick around with you, which is great.
Absolutely.
All right, so listen, thank you for calling. It's so great to be able to talk to you, and to have you be so accessible. Let's go with this first. So I know you started as a lawyer, right?
Yep.
What got you out of that and doing the sports with NBC and then Hardball Talk and all that stuff?
Absolute burnout. No, I was a lawyer for 11 years, and I was a litigator. I was the kind of lawyer that went into court and did trials and did depositions and all that kind of stuff. And I liked some of it, and some of it was stressful, and a lot of it was representing people I didn't really care for very much or didn't line up with my values. And that's a quick way to get burnt out on things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you start looking for other things that interest you. And I've always been a baseball fan since I was a little kid. I've been a huge baseball fan, and I started a baseball blog kind of on the side in 2007, and I did it anonymously while I was still working at the law firm and just writing about baseball every day. And blogging was a lot more popular back in that time, mid-2000s. And over the course of a couple of years, it got kind of popular. Rob Nair from ESPN found it, and he tweeted it out a couple of times. Or I guess you weren't tweeting anything yet then, but he linked it a couple of times in his ESPN column, and some people started to read it. And in early 2009, NBC decided to revamp their sports websites. Basically, Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk, who you're probably familiar with, he was going to join NBC, and they decided, well, they wanted a baseball version and a basketball version and a hockey version. And so they just called me out of the blue and said, hey, we like your stuff. We see what you do. Would you like to, contribute to this thing? And I did part-time for a little while, and after a few months, they liked it so much, they said, hey, can you do it full-time? Are you willing to quit being a lawyer and do this full-time? And I did that at the end of 2009, and I never looked back.
That's awesome. That's great. Because you got to do what you love. And obviously, again, Art mentioned prior to you coming on about timing. So you got lucky, right? And that time, and it really worked out for you, which is awesome.
It's absolute luck. I mean, people ask me, well, how do you get to do what you did? You're a baseball fan, you write about it. A lot of people that are better writers than me, and people, especially back then, who who were just as good as doing what I did, didn't get the chance I got, and I got lucky. And you just make the most of opportunities you get, and that worked out really well for NBC for many, many years. I was very happy there, and that came to an end here this summer because, and it's funny, everybody asks me, "Oh, sorry to hear that." I'm like, "Yeah, it sucks, but you had a good run there, and it was nothing personal. You know what the economy's like right now, and when you run sports and everything, it's really difficult. And you're a cable company, Philly Comcast owns NBC Sports and everything. They just did layoffs across the board, and that just sort of happens. They decided to go in another direction, so I said goodbye. They said goodbye, and a couple days later, I started this newsletter, and still doing what I've been doing for the last several years, and haven't really missed a beat.
That's terrific. I'm happy for you. And again, the fact that you're passionate about it, it comes through, especially in the cup of coffee, because it is fun. It's fun to read, and it's not hard to read. So let's get into a little bit of some of the things that you before I do that. So you grew up. Who's your favorite team?
It's funny. It switched when I was a kid because I was born in Michigan, and I lived there until I was 11. So I was a Tigers fan of those late 70s, early 80s Tigers teams. Alan Trammell, Jack Morris, Lou Whitaker, all those guys.
Yeah.
And I moved away in late 84 after they won the World Series in 84. I moved away, and I moved to West Virginia.
Okay.
And in West Virginia, the only baseball I could get was the Braves on TBS. That was the only baseball you could get there. And so I just started watching the Braves every day, and from about 1985 on, they just became my team for lack of anybody else. And much sorry, Phillies fans or whoever, but
okay.
But so they're my team now. Although I'm not one of those super fanatical guys. When you write about baseball for a living for a long time, especially I write from a national perspective, so I got to kind of cover everybody. You start to drift away from your team a little bit. And they're in the playoffs. I was rooting for them against the Dodgers and stuff in the NLCS. But I don't get too broken up about it anymore. I like baseball as a whole.
Gotcha. So let's get into this stuff with I'm not going to go into the Manfred stuff. But again, well read in terms of what you mentioned. Well, maybe we will. Hold on. Maybe we will, because I think that's important. But what do you like about the game now? First, let's go to what do you like about the game now?
Well, there's a lot I like. It's funny. It's so easy, especially when you're writing every day, to find things you don't like and to complain. And a lot of my content, I'm very critical of the league. I'm critical of Rob Manfred and stuff.
Right.
But, you got to take a step back and realize what you like about the game. I'm a pitching guy, right?
Yep.
I grew up as a guy who thought of baseball as a battle between two starting pitchers. And when you see, especially when you're a Braves fan in the late 80s into the 90s, and you see a Tom Glavine or you see, anybody like that, you start to appreciate that. So I'm a little sad that, starting pitchers don't go as long into games anymore. But when you do see it, that's something you really enjoy. And I like to see good starting pitching. It's just really exciting for me to see anybody, even if they're a little more rare now. So I love great pitchers duels. That's one of my favorite things. I really think that people talk about defense as a problem almost now, which is silly to me. I know it's hard to score runs now outside of home runs, but watching the defenders play now is such a great thing. They're so good.
Craig,
almost every single defender right now would be a Gold Glove defender at any other time in history.
Exactly.
Even the ones we think are bad.
I mean, Craig.
And it's just so great to see that.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, yes, I love. Listen, when I play outfield, when I played in my senior league, and for me, I'd rather throw a guy out at third trying to tag up, or a guy go to home, than almost as good as getting a hit. It's so fun to watch these guys steal home runs over the wall. These backhanded plays at third base or the highlight reels I can watch 24/7 in baseball, because it's such unique ability that they have, especially when they make those throws, and it's exciting to get that bang bang play and he's out and you go look at the play, even if he's safe. The amazing things that these guys in the infield can do, it's terrific.
Yeah,
it's the same way.
It's really fantastic. And one thing that I've done recently, I certainly did early in the season when the season was delayed and there was no baseball going on in the early spring. I went back and I watched a lot of old games. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them on various places. Games from the 80s, games even from the 70s. And I went to watch them because I wanted to see, the faster pace and all of that and see some old players. But one thing I noticed is there were so many hits to the gaps or to the second base hole, the shortstop hole, or just beyond where the second baseman and the shortstop were playing, that today would never be a hit. And you see these guys, other than Ozzie Smith, or really good guys like that, they were making them. But your run-of-the-mill shortstop or your run-of-the-mill second baseman, they would never be able to play today. They just didn't have the range. And so I appreciated even more what we get to see now.
Yeah, it really is. It's so much fun. And as I spoke to Art about, to me, it's about the young players making a name for themselves, especially in the postseason. You know, Rosarina, who the heck was this guy before? You know,
right?
Yeah, I didn't know of that. Who knew?
The only thing I even knew about that guy was because last year, late in the season, he was with the Cardinals, and he got in trouble because he recorded the manager giving a speech or something to the team, and it got tweeted out or it went out on Instagram or something like that. And the Cardinals shipped him to Tampa Bay because they got mad at him, and now look what they lost. The Cardinals get rid of him and Luke Voigt in the space of a year or two, and look what that did to him.
But those are the things, again, yes. And how much do you think, Greg, after you look at this, you've been watching for many years, how much does it make a difference when a guy goes to a different team and he blossoms, right? What to me, it's like is it more attitude if they really wanted to leave and they're more relaxed where they're playing, or is it better coaching? What do you think that's about?
I think it could be anything, any of those reasons for anybody. And we tend to do a retrospective thing where once a guy goes to another team and he does well, we tend to tell the story that, he was always going to do well. He just needed to change of scenery or something like that. Well, that's not always true. Sometimes it is true. Sometimes the guy doesn't get along with the coaching staff, or he's not given the right playing time or something like that. But a lot of times it's, he did get better coaching at the new place.
Right.
Or, things they never talk about, like, maybe the batter's eye is better in Chicago than it is in Minnesota or whatever. I mean, there are all kinds of variables that go into it. And when I used to go to the locker rooms where I used to talk to guys in clubhouses more often, and you would get, and I tended to gravitate towards the new guys because I wasn't an established writer. I didn't have the relationships, and the new guys didn't necessarily know the new reporters yet. So I could go to the new guy and they'd talk to them. And I usually would ask them about, what do you like different here? What so far? What have you seen and everything? You'd get a million different answers. And,
okay.
Yeah, sometimes it could even be, I like this city more. My drive to the stadium from my condo is a lot easier than it was at the old city. I mean, there's a million things, but change of scenery can be a thing. I also think for Rosarena as an example, going to Tampa Bay, I mean, there's a very different coaching culture in Tampa Bay than there is in St. Louis. I think that they're way better at dealing with young players than the Cardinals, who have a pretty sort of established hierarchy, a little more old school, and I think it just probably worked better for them.
I got you. Well, that's interesting to think about. Yes, because they are young, Tampa Bay, absolutely established in St. Louis, so it's the old school style. Well, and to me that does make a little bit of sense. All right, what don't you like about the game now? So listen, I got like 12 minutes.
Okay, I'll give you the short version. So I like pitching, but I really don't like the excessive bullpen use now, and not just because of pitching changes for pitching changes' sake, although that does add a lot of time to the game, which isn't very fun. These guys now are throwing max effort, 98, 99 miles per hour. It's not pitching, it's throwing, and it's effective, but it has a big cost, right? It costs us offense. It certainly costs these guys some time on their career because you can only throw these max effort 98 mile per hour pitches so long. These relievers only have a shelf life of 2-3 years now. I think that's bad. It's not as exciting. And of course, it does cause you to go away from your starting pitching earlier. I don't know what you do about that, but it is something I'm not a big fan of. And then I really do think that the three true outcomes we talk about, the walks, strikeouts, and home runs, little too many of those. I would like to see more balls in play. I would love to see those defenders we were just talking about get more chances as opposed to just watching a guy walk back to the dugout, walk to first base, or trot around the bases.
Right. I mean, I know that, again, old school, I think, Art, we were talking about the less, if you can get somebody who can get also a feel for the play, as the manager, make your changes, get your lineup together more by feel than by these damn analytics. I can't stand it. I mean, Again, old school, move the runners. I haven't seen a hit and run this entire season. 60 games. I don't think I saw one.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very much.
I mean, I don't understand it. So last year we watched our lovely friend Gabe Kapler manage this team, and they would go into extra innings, and the guy would be on first base with nobody out, or bottom of the ninth, and he doesn't want to move the runner over. I'm thinking, no, I don't want to waste an out. Well, wait a minute. Would you rather have a guy on second in scoring position with one out, or the potential to have the next batter ground into a double play, 2 outs, nobody on base? I don't understand. I don't get it.
It can be frustrating. It's like I don't like it, but I get it. And the reason I get it is because even though we don't like these analytics, and I'm not a huge fan myself, I understand them, but I apply them when I think about the game, but they're not my favorite thing in the world to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a thing that, if you look at the numbers, the third time through the batting order for a starting pitcher, they do fall off big on average across the league. They just really do. And so it's always the smart play to pull your pitcher. And the, what the run probability, there's these run probability charts that say, are you more likely to score a run with no outs and a runner on first, or 1 out and a runner on second? And against our intuition and against everything we think we've seen for me, 40 years of watching baseball, I think I'd rather have the guy on second base, but the numbers don't bear it out. And that's frustrating because it's counterintuitive.
It is.
And again, what do you do about that? If you're Gabe Kapler with the Phillies last year, you got to go by the numbers, because then you're going to get fired or someone's going to yell at you if you don't if you don't do it by the book.
Mm-hmm.
If you go against the book and you're wrong, you're screwed. If you go against the book and you're right, you're Bruce Bochy and you have a big career. But it's very difficult for somebody to do that.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating. Listen, again, just like you, I get it. I understand that there's a new element to the science, if you will, of baseball, but I think for baseball, it's more. The skill is honed to the point where a manager could have an influence, a coach could have more of an influence in as a hitter, than saying, okay, well, you know what, just we need to make sure your launch angle is at 20 some odd degrees.
Right.
No, and that's what screwed up Rhys Hoskins with the Phillies last year. I mean, he was just.
I think they do a bad job of explaining it to fans, first of all, and I think they do a bad job sometimes of coaching it. Like, Hoskins is a great example. There's probably a better way to get Hoskins to elevate the ball than to teach him launch angle. Not every player is going to respond to that. Not every player is going to hear that. If you go back to the 40s and you listen to stuff that Branch Rickey had his Cardinals and his Dodgers teams doing, it was no different in effect than the analytics we have now, but they taught it differently.
Okay.
They would do it in a way that you and I might remember from playing Little League or something. It's the same concepts, but now I think we have a problem of some of these brainy Ivy League guys in front offices thinking that there's only way to teach it. You could teach someone to elevate the ball and play to his strengths better without having him to even know the term launch angle, and you can tell fans about that too. I wish they would be a little bit better and more open-minded about that.
Yeah. Because again, all we see as fans are, all we hear are and see on the screen, launch angle, exit velocity. That's great. I don't really care how hard.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean, okay, fine. I don't care. And do the ball players really care how hard they're hitting it? They know when they're up to the plate, they make contact, they're hitting the ball. Do they go, Craig? Do they go back and look at their exit velocities on all the hits they've had? Does that make a difference to them?
They see it, but it doesn't matter, right? Because if Mike Schmidt never had launch angle or exit velocity at his disposal, but Mike Schmidt was one of the smarter power hitters in the history of the game, and he would know. If you talk to him in the middle of 1981 or something, he would be able to tell you, I got the ball very squarely, and I'm hitting it very squarely now. Maybe now someone is going to say, I got 12 barrels this week. Who cares about the barrels? He's hitting it squarely. It's the same idea.
Right. Exactly. All right, let's do this. I got like 4 minutes. You want to go into your rant that you had a cup of coffee about Mr. Manfred this morning?
I'll give you a short, less ranty version because
Okay.
it's been a long day and I've mellowed. But people who didn't know, Rob Manfred yesterday, on the eve of Game 6 of the World Series, decided that rather than talk up the World Series, he was going to talk about the financial problems of the 30 baseball owners, and they've allegedly lost $3 billion this year and allegedly went $8 billion into debt. And he's basically signaling that it's going to be a really rough time going forward for baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I have a huge problem with his timing, first of all. It's the World Series. You're the commissioner. You should be talking about the Rays and the Dodgers right now and how exciting Game 6 and a possible Game 7 should be. It makes me angry that the commissioner of baseball does not promote the game of baseball the way he should. The second part of that is I don't believe his numbers. Major League Baseball's numbers have always been distorted by the commissioner and by the owners. $8 billion in debt, how much of that was already on the books? How much of that was for buying teams? Artie Moreno in Los Angeles just bought his stadium for $150 million.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that was part of that debt figure?
Right.
It's not because they're that bad off. I think Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, are trying to lay the groundwork for teams not to spend money on players for the next year or two, and they're trying to blame it on the pandemic when in reality they're using the pandemic as an excuse to be cheap, and that really angers me.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, Craig, listen, they have businesses, right? It's a business.
Sure.
But I'm hearing that you want more transparent. You'd like to be able to see more transparency. And we're not, listen, we're not going to get that. There's no way.
No, we won't. And we never have.
Right.
But I also, Paul Beetson, who used to be the president of the Toronto Blue Jays, he gave a very famous quote back in the 90s in a book called Lords of the Realm about the ownership of baseball and the business of baseball. He said, I could take a $2 million profit and show it on paper as a $4 million loss, and every accounting firm in the country would agree with me.
Yeah.
That's how baseball owners think. That's how all business owners think. That's how baseball owners think especially.
Right.
They have no credibility when it comes to money, and I'm not going to listen to Rob Manfred on the week of the end of the World Series telling me about how poor everybody is.
Yeah, again, and this is not his first faux pas with what he's done in his job. I mean, let this thing play out. Let's get to the end of it. Let's crown a winner, and not, like you said, cry. We're so poor. I
mean, you could a whole off season for that. Let us enjoy baseball.
Exactly.
Act like you enjoy baseball. A little bit. That would be nice.
It's so true. Oh my goodness. All right, Craig. Listen, I am so sorry I had you come on a little bit late, but I do appreciate the fact that you came on. It's so fun to talk to you. Like I said, I knew we were going to have a fun conversation when I knew you were a cat guy and you had kids. And let me leave you with this. Back to the Future. Did you watch Back to the Future?
Oh, yeah, many times.
So what does Doc say at the end? No, Marty, it's not about you. It's about your kids. Something's got to be done with your kids. One of my favorite lines ever. So I wish you patience with your kids. They will always, you love them to death, but they just, they're just trying. And I went through that stage, and I got twin daughters who are 28. One who's listening now, who's my social media manager, who does an awesome job, and one in California who's also very awesome. So you're proud of them no matter what.
That's good to hear. My 16 and 15-year-old will one day get there.
They will. I promise you they will. And they'll be proud of you, too.
Well, thank you very much, Mitch. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, listen, it was my pleasure, and I'm so glad we got to talk. And I would love to have you on again in the near future, sometime in the future.
Anytime.
That sounds great, Craig. Thanks so much. Have a great week. Enjoy the end of the World Series. Game 6 is on soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that's about it for us, folks. A great show. Thank you to Mike Rickey. Thank you to Brendan Deeg. Thank you to Art Shamsky, New York Mets, and Craig Alcantara. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Coming up next on 12 Ounce Sports, the Captain Lou Extravaganza from 8 to 10 p.m. on Zingo TV, channel 761. 8:30, he's got Dan Huntley at You Mary M Hockey. Head coach at CHAMENSD2. At 9 o'clock, Todd Quarter talking NFL and college football and Major League Baseball. And at 9:30, Matt Gamlin and WWE Hell in the Cell and his Captain Lou's six-pack challenge. Following Lou on 12 Ounce Sports, Mike said it first. He's got the Falcons choke, Cowboys lose and sound off on Bostic, Cam's dress code, Baker without Odell, and a lot more. I want to thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. Have a great Halloween. Be safe. And we'll talk to you next week, which is Election Day. And everybody stay safe. Wear your masks. Stay distant. And enjoy your sports life this week. Thanks.